All right, let's get started here. So today we're going to continue on with 3.1. So today we're going to look at 3.1c. If you haven't noticed, I did get your tests graded. So those are graded and in Infinite Campus. So Infinite Campus should be updated with those tests. It still is missing probably, I think I maybe still have to put your unit to review in there if I haven't yet. And then 3.1 and A and B is really all that I think should be missing. So Infinite Campus is mostly updated. So if you want to check that out, like I said, the test is updated. The tests were really good. They were really good. If you did not show any work, you did lose some points. So if you're looking at that test and you're like, oh, I got this right, but I'm missing points, it's probably because you just wrote the answer and didn't put any work at all. There were some questions where it maybe didn't need work, and I would give you full credit in that situation. So there were some questions like that, but if it was a question where it's like there's no way you can do this problem without work, you might have lost a half a point on that if you didn't show any work. But like I said, they were really good. If you miss some points, I would go back and look at those. I believe I opened that up so that you guys can see that. Let me double check on that. Let's see. Let me double check to see. I think I opened that up so that you guys can see that, so that you can go in and check your test. Yes, I did. So you're able to go in and check your test and see what you missed and relook at those questions at this point. So I would highly recommend doing that because we're going to continue on with that stuff, with that information. So if you struggled on that test, you're going to struggle as we move forward unless you go back and make sure you learn that information. Okay, and so I would go back and look at those tests and see what you did incorrect when you're looking at those. But those are in Infinite Campus for you to be able to see. Okay. So like I said, 3.1c is all about graphing as well. So yesterday we talked about 3.1 graphing the three forms. Standard, we talked about standard form where we have the ax squared plus bx plus c. We have vertex form, and then we had our intercept form where it gave us our x-intercepts. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to look at those three forms again. Okay, and then we are going to kind of just review those three forms, and then we're going to look at graphing using graphing calculators and or Desmos. So I'm going to talk about three different ways to graph using some sort of calculator. I'm going to talk about the 84s, so the TI-84. I'm going to talk about the TI-Inspire, and then I'm going to talk about Desmos as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about all three of those, just depending on what you have is what you need to use. Okay, so I have recommended that you get a calculator. Again, one big reason is for the ACT. When you get to that point, you'll want to know how to use your calculator. If you're good at using your calculator, you will save yourself a lot of time on the ACT when you get to that point. Okay, so, but I'm going to talk about multiple different ways, multiple different forms of using the calculator. So first thing, we talked about this yesterday, and we talked about how this is by far the easiest way to graph when we're doing any of the forms. And so we talked about the 1, 3, 5, 7 rule, where when we're doing a quadratic, it goes up by these numbers. We go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, and so on. Okay, and so we talked about how if A is positive, it's going up by that. If it's negative, it's going down by that 1, 3, 5, 7. All right, so if we look at this first one here, we talked yesterday how once we find the vertex, it's real easy just to go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, over 1, up 5, and so on. Or if A is negative, once you find the vertex, we go over 1, down 1, over 1, down 3, over 1, down 5, and so on. Okay, and then if A is not 1, So once that A value is something other than 1, that's where we just multiply 1, 3, 5, 7 by whatever A is. So if A is 2, it would be 2, 6, 10, 14. If A was 1/3, it would be 1/3, 1, 5/3, 7/3. Okay, and so we're just multiplying the 1, 3, 5, 7 by whatever that A value is. And so that's just the easiest way to graph. It's quick, it's easy, it works every time. So once you find the vertex, then you can just use that rule. Real quick, let's review the 3 forms that we talked about in graphing them. So in order to find the vertex of our 3 forms, okay, in order to find the vertex of our 3 forms, we have standard form, we have vertex form, we have intercept form. Okay, and remember, standard form, the way we find our vertex is by using the negative b over 2a. Okay, so remember the negative b over 2a gives us the axis of symmetry. And then we plug that in to find the y value of our vertex. Okay, so if we're trying to find the vertex and it's in standard form, that's where we're using our negative b over 2a. Vertex form is the easiest one because it gives us the vertex, hk. And finally, intercept form, I think this is the one that people struggle with the most. Remember, intercept form gives us the x-intercepts. Okay, so it's the form that gives us the x-intercepts. And we know that the axis of symmetry is halfway between those 2 x-intercepts. Okay, so the axis of symmetry is between wherever the x-intercepts are, and then we plug that in to find the y. Once we know what the vertex is, then we just need more points. Okay, I've kind of told you guys this from the beginning. I don't care how you find those other points, but you need a total of 5 points. Meaning we need the vertex and 2 other points on each side. Okay, so every single time I need 5 points. I don't care how you find those 5 points. Again, personally, I think once you find the vertex, using the 1, 3, 5, 7 rule here is the easiest. If you don't like that and you want to make an XY chart and just plug X values in, you're welcome to do that too. If you remember that C on standard form is always the Y-intercept and you want to do that, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, or just know that the way we find the x-intercept, or sorry, the y-intercept is make x equals 0. That's okay too. So I don't care how you find other points. I just need a total of 5 points. So you find the vertex and then find 4 other points. Questions with that little bit of review from yesterday, kind of putting it all together. Your homework today is going to have some of that in it. Okay, so that's graphing by hand without using a calculator. Now what we're going to talk about is how to graph using a calculator. So if you have a calculator, get it out right now. If you're planning on using Desmos, open that up right now. Let's start with an easy one. Let me just come up with some. Let's do this one right here. Yep, I like that one. So let's do this. We're going to practice this real quick by using this equation. Okay, so if you have an Inspire, get that out. If you have an 84, get that out. If you don't have any sort of graphing calculator, then open up Desmos. Open up Desmos. So first thing you have to do, no matter which calculator you're using, is type this equation in. So go ahead and do that. Let's see if I can open up my calculator. Okay, so we're going to practice with this one here. Y equals x minus 1 squared minus 3. To be quite honest with you, Desmos is the easiest to use. But you can't use Desmos on the ACT, so that would be one reason not to use it, to get used to using some sort of calculator that you can use on the ACT. I am trying to open up my calculator so I can show you guys. So get that typed into your calculator, whichever one you are doing. Like I said, I'm trying to get mine to open up, but it's not opening for me to show you. So what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to use, as you can see on my screen here, the calculator to find the vertex of our graph, to find the x-intercepts of our graph, to find the y-intercepts of our graph. Okay, so we're going to be able to use, actually, let's do this one here, if you haven't typed one in already. Let's do this. If you've already typed the equation in, that's okay too. So let's walk through these different things that we can use our graphing calculator for. So the first one is finding the vertex. So if you are using an Inspire, okay, if you're using an Inspire, the way that you find the vertex is by saying analyze graph. So on your graph, you're going to go to menu and then analyze graph. And then once you get there, you'll go to the minimum, maximum, whichever one you're looking for. So remember, if our graph is opening up, then our vertex is the minimum. If our graph is opening down, then our vertex is the maximum. So in this case here, you're looking for the minimum. So you go to minimum. Now, what your calculator is going to ask you for is these bounds. This is kind of something that it does a lot. It asks for the lower bound and it asks for the upper bound. And what it's asking you to do is basically tell it where the vertex is. So it's saying put these two lines, this lower bound and upper bound, on each side of the vertex. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put one to the left of the vertex and one somewhere to the right of the vertex. And once you do that, it should give you your vertex right here. So if you're doing this one up here, we should know here that the vertex should be 1, -3. So using your calculator, make sure that you can find 1, -3. That's if you're doing this example here. If you're using 84, same type thing. You go to menu. I'm sorry, not menu. You go to second, trace, which is calculate. Again, it's going to be minimum. So you're finding the minimum of your graph. And then again, you need to set the left and right bound. The left on the left side of the vertex, the right on the right side of the vertex. Hit enter, and it should give you your vertex. If you're using, and this is why I was telling you guys using Desmos is the easiest. Can you guys, let's see here. Okay, if you're using Desmos, you just type it straight in. So I'm sharing my screen for Desmos here. And the nice thing about Desmos is you literally just click the screen and it gives you the x-intercepts. Okay, so that's why Desmos is by far the easiest. It's because it just gives you all this information. You just click the vertex and there it is. You don't have to do lower bound, upper bound. You don't have to do menu. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It just gives it there for you. Okay. Let's go back here. The next thing that it can do is it can find your x-intercepts. Okay, it can find your x-intercepts. If you're using the Inspire, again, you go to Menu, Analyze Graph. Now, remember, yesterday we talked about x-intercepts are the same thing as zeros. Okay, 0 and x-intercept is the same thing. And so our calculator knows the x-intercept as the 0. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit Menu, Analyze Graph, 0, and then you're going to set the lower and upper bound again. So again, you're going to take and you're going to put these, you're going to put these lines. So if I have an x-intercept right here, and this is the one that I want, I need to put a lower bound to the left of that, and I need to put an upper bound to the right of that. And I'm going to have to do that twice. So then if I want to find the other x-intercept over here, I have to do the same thing. I have to put a lower bound here and an upper bound here. And it should give you both of those. X-intercept for 84 is similar. You go to second calculate or trace. Again, you're going to 0, and then again, you're setting the left and the right bounds. For Desmos, it is super easy. Desmos, we have our equation typed in. We literally just go click on the graph. So I click right there, right there. There's my two x-intercepts. So negative 0.732 and 2.732. So it just gives you those x-intercepts. So this is what you should have got, whether you're using Inspire, 84, or Desmos.
Mr. Jet.
Yes.
I have the 84, and every single time I press something, it says error syntax. Like after I press second and then third.
The only thing I can think of that happens sometimes. Hit your y equals in the top left. You see where it says plot 1, plot 2, plot 3?
Yes.
Are any of those highlighted?
No.
Did you type in this equation? Is that the one you typed in? The x minus 1 squared minus 3?
Yes.
And that's not working?
It always gives me like a capital X instead of like the normal.
That's okay. Are you guys using the X? Are you using like the green X, or using the button that is XT theta N? You should be using, I don't know if you guys can see this, my screen. You should be using this button right here if you got an 84 for X.
Yeah, the one with, yeah.
Is that the one you're using, Lauren?
No, I was using the green X.
Yeah, so use this X instead and see if that works.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else having issues typing any of this in with their calculators?
Yeah, mine is working now.
Okay,
Thank
perfect. You're welcome. Okay, and then the final thing that our calculator can find is the y-intercept. The y-intercept. And the way that we're going to do that, again, if you have the Inspire, you'll go to Menu, you'll hit Trace, and then Graph Trace. Let me get mine going here. So Menu, Trace, Graph Trace, and then you're just going to hit 0 because we want to make x equals 0. So all you'll type in here is, as soon as you hit Graph Trace, you'll just click 0, and it's going to put this on your screen. So hit Enter, and it should find your y-intercept at 0, -2. What you're doing is you're saying when x equals 0, what does y equal? And that's what you're telling your calculator. If you have the 84, you're going to hit second trace again, so calculate. You're going to go to value, and then it's going to pop up this x equals on your calculator with this like flashing box. You'll say x equals 0, you'll hit enter, and then again it's going to tell you y equals -2. That's your y-intercept. That one should be pretty easy. And finally, Desmos, like we've been saying, is the easiest one. With Desmos, you literally just click your graph, and right there, it gives you the y-intercept. Okay, so it's good to be able to know how to use your some sort of graphing calculator. On our case, if you want to use Desmos, I'm okay with that as well, though. Questions? All right, I want you guys to do this example here. So everybody do this example here. I want you to find, of this equation, find the vertex, find its x-intercepts, should be 2, and find the y-intercept. Go ahead and do that, using whatever calculator you want to use. If you're having trouble, now is the perfect time to ask about this. Because there will be a question on your test where you have to be able to use a calculator.
For the test, will we be able to use Desmos?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go a couple more minutes with this. So here are the answers you should be getting. I want to give you a little bit more time to get those. Make sure you can get those answers on some sort of calculator. On Desmos, it should be super easy. Yeah, I typed in my equation, 2x squared plus 14x plus 23. It literally gives me the x-intercepts. It gives me my vertex. And if I scroll out, or if I drag and scroll up, it gives me my y-intercept. Okay, so Desmos is super easy to use when it comes to graphing. Any other questions with graphing using your graphing calculators? Okay, your guys' homework is Delta Math. Okay, so there's a 3.1C Delta Math assignment for today, and then also the 3.1 quiz on Schoology. Okay, so due tomorrow at 10 a.m., 3.1 Delta Math, 3.1 quiz on Schoology. Questions? All right, you guys got about 25 minutes to get going on those two assignments. See you guys.